Hi guys, how are you? I hope you're well. My name is Wanyiha. If we haven't met, doing this series on altars that we are fighting. These are altars concerning marriages and how, because of altars, some marriages are challenged, yeah, or most marriages are challenged, and the Lord wants you to consider this and listen to this kind of things. It's a lot of people He's using to speak. And this is because a lot of families were afflicted some generations ago, and they came into agreement with things that did not please Him, okay? And so because of evil altars speaking to us and using the legalities given to them by our very bloodline, the Lord had to watch until, a set time to rescue or awaken His own, into what He's doing now. And this is that God wants to restore marriages, the ones that are broken. And by doing that, He will introduce generations of blessed marriages, and it will be a beautiful sight to see. Now, He has done that with other families. And when you look around, especially in the social media, this is a beautiful age to exist, He has done that with some people, and we see people who are so blessed that even when you cast them, they cannot be cast, okay? Because the blessings of the Lord endure to thousands of generations, okay? Or thousands of years. Now, if you look at Exodus, that is where actually it comes from, Exodus 20. I wasn't ready with it, so I urge you to read it, or I will attach it here when I'm editing. God speaks about the kind of curses He reaches to the third and fourth generation. So a lot of families have been suffering this, but you may not have known, because a lot of people will be chosen in a family in every generation. And this, you will see, it will seem like normal lives as we are used to, Most people are so used to struggle, they don't even know how to adjust to blessings, So with the struggles that we've seen a lot of teachings coming from that. We've seen marital teachings, we've seen societal teachings where we get like the methalis, the sayings of the wise that teach us how to live, because we will never be the same in the world. Some will be ahead of us, some will be way behind us, some will be at our level and not even know it, because a lot of times when we are working together, we may be tempted to compete, to check who, is doing better, I think there's a Kikuyu saying that says, like your house is not built like the next person's, But should you ever focus on what God has given you, because He has given you many gifts, and He has empowered you and strengthened you so that whatever your course is and what your calling is, you'll be very good at it. You'll be able to do it very effectively, okay? So this video is an attempt to it's another story from my family, and it's an attempt to show you that people have indeed been called to a particular thing, and they're given grace for what they do, okay? Now, this can change depending on the decisions that you make, and some decisions will actually fit you into a particular shoe in the generation, okay? And you will see that you're living a life that somebody else lived. You may have a few changes because this is a different generation. But you will find that you're living somebody else's life, sometimes without even trying, but sometimes it's the decisions that you make that lead you to a particular place, And because there's a grace given for that particular path that you're on, you should not compare yourself with somebody else, because their shoe is just as tight, okay? How their shoe is, you don't know, we never know where the shoe pinches, okay? So so when I got my son, I got my firstborn when I was at home, okay? And later I decided to move out. Things were just not working out at home. I wasn't happy, but just when the baby was new, it was such a happy feeling for everybody, I had a whole village to raise my child, but I didn't want to stay at home, and I was I was working and I wanted to move out with my son and just raise him with my own values. Yeah. I've always been kind of stubborn and very, very independent. And if that independence and stubbornness is hindered, or let's say the independence, yeah, stubbornness should not be. If that independence is hindered by somebody else, then I would have to make a choice. Okay. And so this choice would be to move out eventually, yeah? I kind of felt out of place being at home, you know, with a child. And that should tell you that when you're chosen to break some curses, you will not settle into, you know, the normal. And many times, yeah, there would be all these things pulling me back, yeah? All these strings attached to me, pulling me back to come home. I would find financial difficulties ahead. And, there's one time I went back home, yeah? And thankfully, my mom made me uncomfortable because I spent the night at her place. And the next morning, she was like, what have you decided? What are you going to do about your situation? So I went back, and there used to be a shop where I used to live in that plot of land, or plot, yeah? We call them plots in Dandora. In hindsight, I should have really moved away from home, like far away from home, maybe close to my job in town, so that I knew I had no option, right? So anyway, I went and I talked to the lady at the shop, and she told me, you are not the only one whose house was locked. So find a way to go back. And I was like, what is the way? And she told me, you just go and open the lock this and that way. Okay. So I got somebody to break that lock. And then later I went to visit the agency that managed that property, and I was like, you guys, I need some time because I'm out of a job and I want to get one, and I will go back to paying you. For some reason, I never got a job in that period. In fact, the only time I got a job was way after moving out of that place. Yeah. And so I was struggling, and I think in this struggle, I didn't think anybody knew, but I think at some point my mom-in-law found out that I'm not working, and she insisted that I move in, yeah? So I didn't understand her reasoning then, but it was a decision that would inform a lot of things. But while I was there, yeah, I want to show you just a difference that occurred that informed, us, my sister and I, of the different paths that we were on, yeah. So my sister actually got a child 9 months after me. Like in the month I delivered, she was 1 month pregnant, okay? So we were about to show mom some shege that she didn't expect. She thought she had raised us well, but here we were, yeah? And I remember when I got pregnant and I told one of my aunts, she called my mom to talk to her and calm her down because this was very disappointing. And she told her, why would you be surprised when you did the same thing? Okay, so she was, trying to highlight that this is a pattern repeating. You shouldn't be harsh on your daughter. It didn't, of course, go down well. Of course, that was so insulting to my mom, yeah? So she thought she had done better. We always want to do better with our kids so they don't repeat our mistakes, right? Now, so when my sister got her baby girl, we were both there. Like, the situation was so ugly, and we were not working. And for some reason, the finances in that home dried up. Yeah, like we were so broke. We were beyond broke. Yeah, at some point, a neighbor had to give us food. Yeah, and so it was very, very bad, and it's like my mom's business was not doing well. For some reason, there was a bit of laughter, and like whenever we found food, we would cook it and really enjoy it together. By this point, we were beyond shame, right? So my mom had enjoyed her grandkids, but eventually, things had to change. Yeah, so I got a job, but in this job, I wasn't being paid. Yeah, so it was quite crazy. And then I reached out to an uncle who had employed me before, and I was like, these people are not paying me, what do I do? And so he solved the situation like a boss. Yeah, the way some uncles don't play, they have power, they have know-how, yeah? So he sorted out the situation. I won't even go into that, but yeah, I was like his child, yeah, very distant, but still, he was like, no, you shouldn't work where you're not being paid. And then later he was like, just come and work for me. for very little, of course, but I was like, now this is it. If I get a job, I'm moving out. And so I did. In that period is when I mentioned that while my sister now was trying to get also situated, there, and I think she was living with my aunt at some point, yeah. So just looking for, ways. She was living there to be closer to her workplace because she was doing business, yeah. So at some point there was a prophet that said, said to her, you should go back to your husband, right, the father of the child, and yeah. So, and the one that you think is getting married is actually not the one that's getting married. But this time, my husband's family had come and did some, some ceremony of sorts. Yeah, it's called knowing the girl's home. It's when they make a first visit to officially announce that we have we and we know that your daughter has our child, and we intend to marry her. Okay, but of course my husband wasn't done with school, wasn't interested in marriage. I didn't say that, but it was very, very clear. Yeah. And I remember that day when they came, my mom-in-law actually ran away with the baby. Like she took him home, like, this one is ours now. We've actually done a thing, yeah. But of course it was too early. So eventually, yeah, I moved out, and in these times my sister would come to visit me, and she's actually the one who told me what the prophetess had said. And so at some point I told my husband, I don't think this is going to work. We are not doing well. So yeah, while I was there, my sister went back to her husband. Okay, but now put a pin on that while I explore something. You know how a few videos ago I was talking about marriage, and I said the theologists say that God doesn't choose a husband for you, okay? So a kingdom husband, or the man that you actually end up with, that is, it seems like this was chosen for you, and this was so meant to be from the beginning, and actually God brought you guys together. It is actually the period, the process that you go through, and you both stick it out, that actually approves you as a kingdom husband. Now I can prove it with the examples that have been giving of covenants. Yeah, a while ago I did a video where I taught that the Gibeonites approached Joshua and they made a covenant that they will stay under all with the Israelites, yeah, and they would never come to any harm. Nobody in the Israelites fraternity or family would ever kill any of the Gibeonites, yeah. And when Saul did, yeah, it ended up costing him his family, even though he was dead, yeah, his family was killed because of that. And it was such so painful, even for the people of for the remnants in his family, who were the women that were married there, yeah. And his concubine actually is the one we see crying long after, just watching over the body so that they're not eaten by scavengers, yeah. So to me this morning, I'm convinced that my sister could have stayed in this marriage and actually just did her marriage, okay. So for some reason my sister was very disappointed, and that is according to the person God, to how she's built, I'm thinking just like my mom before her, she could not tolerate, okay? Her expectations were not met, okay? And perhaps there was nothing in this family or in this man that convinced her that staying with you is worth it, okay? Now, I'm not saying that my bar is set low, but there's some things that used to make me stay, although I ran many times, but there was a certain freedom that came with marrying somebody. And I think also the fact that you were together like all the time. Now this would be a bone of contention many times, like why are we not working, like why are we not hustling, okay? We were not comfortable, but it's like we were not working, okay? But for my sister, when they struggled in such manner, and she tried many times, yeah, to get them out of the problem. When I visited, in fact, one time I wanted even to run away with her because I was feeling very challenged as I lived alone, yeah, and providing for my son. And my sister, her solutions are black and white. Why don't you come with me? And I'm like, where? Gosh, I was hoping for some advice instead. Anyway, so for my sister, she was very black and white about things, and I don't know if it is the spirit I talk about of the Agikuyu, like I have tried, or maybe she knew she had tried and it didn't work out. Okay, whatever it was, because this man seemed to be a good man, yeah, but whatever she went through in that marriage, she was like, I'm out, yeah. And she most, okay, like there was no talking to her. She left, okay, and she had some support, you know, from our cousins and stuff. They listened to her story. She left. I listened to her story. I was like, that is not a reason to leave, okay. So maybe my bar was set low, or maybe I was into this marriage thing. I do not know. It didn't look like it, because for me, I would run at every juncture, you know, but there was a sweetness to this thing that I was like, if you guys stuck together, like, don't you enjoy the sweetness? Like, you being with your husband and talking about your future. Because even the things she would mention, I'd be like, oh, hopeless romantic. Yeah, so what do I know? Because I wasn't being practical at all, okay? Yeah, so she left this marriage, okay? And it's not that she did not desire marriage, just her expectations were not met, okay? And so she went through arid places. I'm telling you, the places she went through were not pleasant. But did she look back? She kept moving forward, focusing on her success, okay? And many times when you leave something, whether it's a job, whether it's a marriage or such a thing, you find yourself going through a challenging period where at some point you feel like you should turn back, yeah? So she did go through that, and maybe she made a decision for one reason or another. I actually know one of the reasons why she didn't go back, of which I can't share, okay? So, yeah, I know, I'm sharing a lot, so you're like, okay, so how did you decide to stop there? Bear with me, okay? So she did desire marriage, and of course, up ahead, she would, you know, try to date and stuff, and then she met, you know, another man, okay? Now, this man, I don't know why I could even relate with him, yeah? And for so many reasons, he seemed also like how my husband was. Like, we had gone through that experience of seeing somebody who was jobless for so many years, but we prevailed, okay? So there's a way you will, you know, give somebody so many chances to see if they will, you know, like perform like the other one, you know? So you're given all these chances, but it is harder even for the next. Have you ever heard that, you know, people leave their first marriage, and when they try the second one, it's even harder, like, right? Like, even if maybe if we were all comparing this man to my husband, perhaps at some point my sister was like, no, I don't think so. Maybe this is just so difficult, okay? And this guy was kind of my buddy, all right? But yeah, he was who he was, you know, and when altars, and I'm not using this as an excuse, you guys, an altar will speak so loudly, will fight so fiercely that if there's even a light in you, it will be snuffed out. Like, the purposes that you're supposed to accomplish will not come to fruition. So if you're not strong enough, you know, to fight, to endure, and by strong, I mean sometimes weak, like, you'll just sit there like a foolish person. Like, you'll just sit there doing nothing, saying nothing until that wave passes, okay? So at some point, my sister was like, that's it. I don't think this is what I thought it was, and it's over, okay? Now, to reach this stage, I realized this was actually my sister, you know, coming into a life like my mom's, okay? So she made a decision, this is not it, I don't like this, I don't want it, okay? Now, you have to realize that every time in my marriage, some things would rise in my mind, like what the prophetess said, like, the one you think is going to get married is not the one, run, you know? At some point, when we came to the point of where we are coming to our breakthrough, right? Like, my husband is pursuing this Canadian journey. We met this wonderful couple in church, okay? This was the pastor. This was the pastor couple, okay? And so for some reason, we had just the right energy around each other, and they would tell us about, their stories. You have to understand these stories were not common in both our families, yeah? So they would tell us about their marriage story, how they started so poor. And let me tell you, at this point, they're so, like they're sweet stage, yeah? Like you look at them, they're so well suited, it is so sweet, their relationship, they're so sweet to each other. There's like love with no doubt, yeah, like acceptance of each other's faults. They're a power couple, okay? So I would look at them, we would talk about the past and, the things, that they went through, and even the things we also went through as a young couple. And, my husband would raise that thing for the first time, and he said, sometimes women can be so misled, yeah? Because even like this one, she thought there was, she thought she should run away because of a prophetess that said this and that. Now, you have to realize with the life that you are growing, especially in our homes, yeah, and I say Kikuyu homes because I have seen other homes where a girl is taught very carefully how to be a good wife, how to love marriage, and how to understand that once you leave this home, you're not coming back. We are not going to entertain this, yeah? So with the changes in life, some girls will run away a few times and be like, okay, settle down, I'm going back and working this out, because nobody tells you at the beginning, but this is your own marriage, your own. Listen, I can advise you day and night, yeah, but I cannot carry you. Do not run and come to me. I will not accommodate you, so it is your own marriage. You have to work it out. Is it painful? Is it hard? Is it confusing? Is it sometimes you feel like, nah, this is not it. I am not built for this. I am not the one. Okay, find somebody else to bag. I am leaving. Okay, and you can imagine the number of like for us women, we have this thing where we watch and see a lot of women divorcing, going and having this glow, right? That first glow where, this man is even tempted to take her back, and when they try, it doesn't work. She goes, becomes a success. We hear of these stories, which are the exception, not the rule, yeah? Because a lot of other people have also left and didn't do as well, yeah? Or they tried other relationships, and then in the end, they settled for being a side chick, and perhaps they left because there was a side chick in their family. Now listen to Wanyiha. Listen to me when I say, I do not support, I do not accommodate, I do not think people should even entertain the idea of adultery. Why? Not just for the two of you. You two can forgive each other, especially when it's kept a secret, yeah? Not for the two of you, but whatever you do in your marriage will be repeated in your children's marriage. And when that, weakness that you see will be highlighted or mirrored by your daughter or your son-in-law, like the one who comes into your family, you will blame them. But you will not remember that it is you who started this or you who continued this, because you did not know what altars came with. Yeah, perhaps you think, oh, there's an anti-marriage altar in this family, but we've done it. Okay, how did you do it? What mistakes did you do? Because the people ahead of you will be tempted the same way. Again, we said whatever gift you get, the devil has a counterfeit. Okay, so when you're thinking my husband is not the one, clearly, and the things he does annoy me so much, I don't know what I saw in him. Okay, so you're seeing these other people that look like they're the ones, right? Trust me, that is a counterfeit. What a counterfeit will do is opposite of one who is chosen for you would do. Okay, this one has compassion. This one is you. Okay, you're bounded the same way. Okay, so there's so much knitting that has gone into making you who you are. And when you break apart, because when the cord is strained, what happens? It tears, right? Naturally. Okay, so when you come into this new thing, for you to build it up to where, it is satisfactory, you will have to witness this other person's mistake to a point where you're thinking, you're even like the other person, and at some point, perhaps you can't carry on. At some point, you're like, okay, now I have nowhere to go. I will stay. And perhaps through that, you will win, yeah? But the challenges will come. You'll be tried. You'll be strained. Maybe there will be an advantage that keeps you there. Maybe not, okay? Sometimes you just stay because you're tired. These spiritual wars can make it very, very tired, okay? But when the altars are speaking against you, and I told you everything comes as a package, yeah? There are things that will be thrown at you do not even imagine, okay? Last night, let me just add this. It is not about marriage, but let me just add it because God was showing me, reminding me, yeah? Because the thing about education, yeah, has always been bugging me. And as a way to comfort you, sometimes God shows you what was done in the past, yeah. So like whenever you come into new knowledge, God will show you like what happened. And so God was reminding me how in class 8, yeah, that is when, like a country in Kenya, that is where we do our national exams that usher you into the next stage, which is high school, okay? I started sleeping like seriously in class, yeah. Like I would sleep on my, like I would put my chin on my hand like this and sleep. Like I could not pay attention. I didn't know it, but I was being challenged. Now, I don't know why at this stage is when God was reminding me last night. And then when I went into high school, you know, when you are in a lab and like the teacher is showing you an experiment, then you go back to your desks to do the experiments on your own. Yeah. So we surround the teacher. I would sleep while still standing. Like we are standing surrounding the teacher. And I wake up to the whole class looking at me. The girls are laughing. My teacher is very confused. Like, Oneni, what is wrong with you? Okay. So these things come as a package so that you will never be able to stand on a particular thing. Okay. So the devil may not, know he's not omnipresent like God. The familiar spirit may not even know what is ahead, what will be done, but they study patterns. Okay. So for me, it looked, even as a small kid, I loved books. I would hide with books. I would run away from people. I never felt like so comfy around people. I would hide and read a book, okay? So I must have looked so studious, yeah? Like, this one is going to make it academically, right? So I told you in the fourth part of fighting, I almost said aliens, altars. I told you how the devil whispered to me about my niece, okay? And that is something, and I had to cancel it. And I told you in the same way I understand what was whispered to my aunties to target me with witchcraft, okay? So that at the point where I'm supposed to prevail, yeah, I wasn't supposed to pay to pass high school. Okay. Now I did pass high school, but let me tell you the anguish that came with that. I could not go to the school I wanted. And I was like, God, I didn't even want much. I didn't want a national school. All I wanted was Pangani Girls High School. What was so hard about that? I think I missed with a few marks. Okay. And my mom tells me now that they went later to check if I could be accepted as second selection. By not going to my dream school, and that is entitlement. I understand that. I know what you're thinking. I went to Ngara Girls. Yeah. Now, one thing is that I was looking for escape. I wanted a boarding school badly. Okay. So being accepted to Ngara, it would be so easy to accept that, but I hated the commute. Now, I will tell you the truth. I am so lazy in some ways. Yeah. Like, I think it's the last born in me. I hated the commute. I hated matatus, but I came to enjoy the matatu culture in Kenya. It's very irresistible. But anyway, I hated having to commute every day, yeah? I was forever tired. And let me tell you, in my house, my mom was raising us as, for marriage, grooming us for marriage, yeah? So you have to do your duties when you come. I used to envy girls who tell me, oh, I got home and, just sat at the dining table doing my homework. I would be like, what world is that? You don't have to do dishes. You don't have to clean. You don't have to cook, because I had to do all those, especially with my sister not being present, okay? So I hated my life. Yeah, like when it came time to board, I was happy, but I went there to sleep because at this point, it was again the fourth year. I'm supposed to perform well. The only thing I ever did in that high school that was remarkable was write a story that was actually published during the Beijing Women's Conference, okay? So that for me was a signal that there was something inside me that would come, to work later, okay? Now, as much as your destiny is stolen, manipulated, thrown all over the place, yeah? When God restores you, there's some things he'll give back to you, even if you lost that, chance for education. And I know what you're asking, Roots, now you have a chance to education. I will tell you something about that one day, okay? So stick around, yeah? Stick around with me. So Yeah, so you see, now I was telling you this story about my sister and I, and that is how my sister got into now living my mom's life, but in another generation. Now, there's changes that my sister has done, and let me tell you, my sister was made to be the perfect wife, as we know wives, yeah? So maybe hers was corrupted because she was seen to be a good wife, but me, God was hiding me in plain sight, yeah? So they challenged her as a wife so that she would get so impatient, you know, and also very discouraged, like, is this what marriage is? I do not want it. Same thing that happened to my mom. So history repeats. Okay, me I even needed a caregiver or something, yeah? The only thing I really desired was to have, you know, a home of our own. I'm a very private person, especially because of my very many faults. I don't want to live in a place where I'll be criticized, yeah? But I went through all of that until I became a boss lady, yeah? Like at some point, I was like, I just raised out of that, all those shackles, and I was like, now if I stay here, it will have to be on my own terms, yeah? And let me tell you, that was war. The violent take it, and they take it by force, okay? So don't you give up. Don't you search for defeat. Now, I have some beautiful notes from the times I used to learn. Let me tell you, these notes are from 15th August 2018, yeah? And I want to read a segment, and this is to tell you that this thing that I talk about, yeah? I tell you my faults, because if I've in some way made it in marriage up to this point, it's not because of power or might, okay? I was not the ideal wife. I wanted to be in school, okay? I wanted to do well in school. I wanted to be a great author. Now, everybody who is in my life, and that is why I would tell you this confidently, I've ever written a poem for, okay? I was the kind of person who will write small notes for your birthday and all that. That is all I used to do. I was really pissing people off because nobody was like that, you know, in my circle, yeah? So what they challenge is what they saw, but God hid me in plain sight. Why? Because marriage is so important to him, and coming into the fourth generation, God was keeping a covenant so that if he saves one, yeah, and that is how God uses the chosen one to bring about something that has not been in existence, yeah. Now you see how for everyone else this has been challenged. You know, there were older, you know, sisters of my mom whose marriages were challenged, especially because they were challenging other people because they came in as second wives, yeah. Now one did marvelous, and you know, as a wife, actually both did very well. As wives, you'd want to emulate, okay? But God is a God of justice. Now, my family watching this, they would be like, oh, what injustice did we do? You know, especially with the old spirits that we know we have, yeah? But I'm saying all that to say sometimes, our children will reap what we sow, and in doing that, it will cause pain. And even though God will restore, because He's very faithful to restore to your generation, yeah? So you will see some ease with the next generation. Like I know with my sister, there's some things that she has accomplished and done, you know, and prepared, so much so that her children will you know, come to a better place, yeah? And her children have also been rich and tried to be crippled, you know? But God, let me tell you, God. So back to my notes. A man, okay, a man. This is the view that I was learning at that point, yeah? So when a woman struggles in marriage, she is bound to lose herself, her laughter, her compassion. And that is why we were talking about how there's no love when you're fighting altars. You find some women being very harsh to their children, to the very children they bore. But what the scripture says, you know, a mother can leave the very child that they bore, but would I leave you? Like God is asking, would I ever leave you? You know, this is what you need to understand, that even though the mother leaves, I will never leave you nor forsake you, okay? So that is like a covenant that God keeps with you, that He will never leave you nor forsake you, okay? So for whatever you are doing, He doesn't leave, He doesn't forsake you, and He will guide you and give you grace where you are at, okay? So if you could just look at where you're at and marvel that God allowed it to happen because He has a covenant, you know, with you. He made a promise, you know, even to those who are suffering the same fate before you, and He was like, your children will do better, your children will go further, okay? So He will do that for you, you child of the one that was afflicted, and he will rebuild you, because it is a covenant. Guy Timwaganu, God is not naughty. So a woman is bound to lose herself when she is in a marriage that is not working out. Yeah, so she loses her laughter, her compassion. It becomes a battle to keep and maintain a healthy balance and sanity in the home. That is how it would look like nothing is working here. So when she's so unhappy, she's very bound to leave and break this covenant. Okay, now God is so very serious about covenants. If you stay, he supports. If you leave, he will support. Yeah, but you'll have to go through those arid places, and how you stand, it depends on what you are chosen to actually do. Okay, so you can do it in marriage or not. Yeah, it's your choice actually. Now this is where I was actually going, but I wanted to read that part. A man should carry a family, because carrying a family is equivalent to pregnancy and its issues. Okay, he is mandated by God, reference to Malachi 2:15, because when a man carries his family and he's a good husband, I said Malachi 2:15 here, where God speaks about a godly offspring, but before, on verse 12-13 there, he's talking about the deacons in the family, in the Levite family, yeah? And he's telling them, you guys keep coming to my altar to cry that I do not answer your prayers. But this is because you have been unjust or unjust to the wives of your youth, yeah? So you're provoking these women to anger, okay? So you leave them and you think that God is going to hear you, yeah? So whatever a man, does, he may lack blessings for a long time, yeah? So this may be where a man is able to actually establish a home and bring a peaceful existence, as in Proverbs 128. But instead of doing that, yeah, and you should read 128:7 and 128. Those are my key Psalms 127 and Psalms 128, yeah. 127 talks about how a God builds, how unless God builds a home, the builders build in vain. And it goes ahead to talk about the children of a young man, yeah, and how it is a powerful thing for his quiver to be filled with children. They're like an arrow, into your future. Okay, and 128 talks about this man who fears God so much so that his family is blessed, and his woman actually comes into blessing, is blessed. It's like a fruitful vine in his home. Okay, now this is the ideal situation, and it does happen once you stick to the process, because the process now will bring you to that place. Yeah, let me tell you, in our early days, yeah, when I didn't think we were productive enough, we had this thing where we would sit around the table. My husband would carry the baby because we had only 4 seats. Yeah, so we had that blessing, right? We are sitting, your children are like olive shoots around your table. I loved it, yeah? And that is what tormented me when he went away, because at that point, all my focus was on him going away, okay? Now, God would bring back that, that season, okay? Or not that season, but the season we have now where, we have that table. We are not rolling in wealth, okay? So choose what you want, because each gift comes with its own. But, like his children will be so inspired. And I can tell you one thing, yeah? So my Michael, right? My Michael is my firstborn. He hit the ground running in this America. I've told you that, God used him in so many ways, where even at birth, he was used to unite me with this family, yeah? And one time he goes into Canada, he insists once we come into the US that he wants to go, to go back and go to school there, yeah? We didn't know it until, so much later, like in this season, God is clarifying this, that he went ahead into Canada because God knew I would be sent to Canada, and then he would be the one to bring me home. Like with him there, the dad was talking to him about, come back, just come to the US and do a different course here. I don't think you're doing well. You're not getting a job. You're not able to establish yourself and thrive there. Why don't you come? And him being a very obedient child. And let me tell you, the obedience isn't just about hearing his father or being a good child in the home. This guy hears God in his own way. He is very God fearing. And so this thing that was put in him, where he went. And you know, at that point, Imani had dreamt that Michael would go into a brick house college, yeah, like a red college, you know, a red building. And it would be like, we see this building here in Orlando. Are you sure you're doing the right thing going back? And maybe you're supposed to go into this college, and he would be stuck, you know, he would stick to his decision. But now, later now in Massachusetts, he attended now that college, okay? A college that is like that, you know, and he would pursue the thing that he said he would. So him going into Canada, back to Canada, was actually to get me, you know. And let me tell you, many times while I was in Dieppe working, because I went back to work, I would dream that I'm trying to find my way out of a place, and there's no way, and there are people, you know, evil people coming to attack me. So I'm walking along a certain corridor, and I see this place where it's like a river of dirty water, and there's no bridge to cross, and the evil people are coming, you know, after me. And so even me, I was waiting to see, how will I leave this Canada? Okay, how will I leave this Canada? There's no way. Looking at all, you know, at the situations, like I can't even renew my passport because the embassy is closed. I can't renew my visa in order to get a job that will give me a permanent residence for the whole family. So everything I said I was going into Canada to do was not panning out. My job was just messy. I was trying to get another job. They said, yeah, we can hire you. We can get you a PR. I didn't have validity on my passport. So like everything God puts together, he works it for your good. And so because Michael was in, you know, this country, he needed to have, you know, a passport. And also now he needed to come to the US. His father needs him there. Now, his father also needed me there because with the new job, he was going to go away for training, and I was going to come and just, you know, come back. But I had to stay to get my passport because my visa was also finishing, yeah. Anyway, I was supposed to come back for 3 months, yeah, and go back to, for 3 weeks, yeah, and go back. But I didn't have a passport to show, okay? So I had to stay 2 months. Anyway, it wasn't a flattering thing for me to know that I'm coming here just to do my motherly duties and all of that. But for Michael to be there, and the dad needed to get him so that he can come start his process, you know, in Massachusetts. Let me tell you, this guy in a way was coming to get me. And God would tell me while on a shift one time that your son is coming to get you. I didn't understand it until later, yeah? Let me tell you, in all this, my ego was bruised. What are you talking about, you know? Because I was feeling like I'm so helpless. And there's no time God is putting me on a pedestal. Like, you know, I can even say I'm not coming or I'm not going or Michael is there. You know, just let him be with the kids. Or I needed that passport, and we only came because that time the Washington embassy opened, okay? The Ottawa embassy, I would call and call and call. It wasn't, you know, they told me we are not open, we cannot process. Now you would wonder, when was that? Let me remind you. The Kenyan government was changing our passports from the Kenyan to the East African one, yeah? And so even if you got the old one renewed, you'd have to, you know, at some point, get the East African one, okay? So with the embassy in Washington opening, this was the only chance. And I didn't think I would cross the border. Now, let me tell you what happened. And I didn't think this story would take this turn. But anyway, as we were going, because I had never driven that, you know, way, I had gone only up to St. John's in New Brunswick, okay? So somewhere along, and I don't even remember which region, I can't give you a name, yeah? I would see a river, and it reminded me of that dream, yeah? And so I wondered, okay, God, so I've seen the river and we've crossed. Because I was thinking, you know, as a human, so what happens with this river? Do we fall in? Do we get an accident? So much so that I never leave this Dieppe? Because from my dreams, it was showing this river will keep you back. You won't be able to cross. So you come up to the edge, yeah? But you can't cross. It's like a pier. You come up to the pier, you can't cross, okay? But turns out that these two men were gonna get me out, okay? So this one, you know, is taken out by the reason that his father wants now for him to come and start schooling in Massachusetts. And this other one actually came for me, just like he did when he was a child. Now, this may sound confusing. I promise one day I'll, you know, bring clarity to the matter, okay? So just the notes and then we finish. I know this is a long video. So how a man carries his family, it has to come from him, and he's the one who sets the mood for his family. And by mood I mean he's the one who, like, what a man thinks and believes is what sets the pace for his family. So a woman would even want so much for this family and want to take it a certain direction, but a man is very much able to hinder her, especially if he has all these issues in his bloodline. All these altars speaking against this woman, he will want to put her down in a way, or prevent her from just accessing what she should. Remember, a woman is a spiritual portal. We will get into that, but I'm saying all this to say a woman has power to just penetrate, and when she's given power, to occupy properly, and she's given her space, and she's able to take that too, okay? Because you can be given and not be able to take it up and just do the right thing. So when this woman finds that space, like she's able to occupy her whatever, she will be able to do well as as a wife, right? So she'll be able to be in operation. But if this man will never give her the rein, she will be just twisting, she will not have the confidence. She has to be given the rein by this man, first by bringing her into the marriage, and second by, loving and, taking care of things. So he handles the family in a way that you wouldn't. Now, as women, we find that we are able to take care of our family, furnish the home, bring in what we desire, that sometimes even the man can't relate. Like, what do you want that thing for? You want a fridge so that you can fill it with all these things, and then we'll be eating old food. A woman is like, no, this is for my meal preps and my preparations and my recipes. So when she needs it, she knows why she wants it. And so you find that a woman is working towards making a home more comfortable, and that's how she makes a home, right? But if a man hinders her for not being able to provide and also lead and guide and lead, that will be a problem. So in him stepping into his position, he's carrying the family, and this is equivalency to a pregnancy that a woman carries and brings forth the babies. Now, point 2, and the reference to that was Malachi 2:15, God wanting godly offspring, and the fact that a man will not have his prayers answered if he scorns or he's scornful to the woman that he married. So with this marriage, we have to do our part. He nourishes his family through providence. He inspires and motivates and secures them with love, attention, and presence. Okay, so when a woman lacks that, you see how a lot of women say, I left my home for love and comfort and attention, and all these things that I couldn't get at home. So if I can't get that here, I'm leaving. Okay, so once he gives this, then the woman responds. Okay, now I will tell you what happens when a woman comes from particularly bad altars. Okay, I came from bad altars, but for some reason they were able to be subdued, and also it's like I had to break some chains. Now, I talked to you about a lady who came in and was living, where my mom lives, where, her husband lives, that never left the home, right? So similar situation, I also went into a different home. We fought altars. It's not that they were easier, but for some reason, we were able to prevail, And so it turns out by, this girl coming into our family altars, this man stood, okay? So my brother stood in order to cover her, and be able to, would I say dilute? Would you guys let me get away with that? So anyway, subdue, right? The altars from her family and take on leadership, But these ones, wherever she comes from, and so I would hear when my brother understood what he was up against, he would talk about it, And so he understood why he needed to save this girl and cover her, okay? So he actually stood. We think he's weak for standing, but he actually stood in order to raise this girl who came from very bad altars, okay? So even worse, but when she found now the altars in my home, they want to take this marriage out, okay? And so we end up, coming into... they end up now coming into agreement with the same altars that affected his mother before him, okay? So we see the mother was born, as the last born to my grandmother. And when, as the last born to my grandmother, she was like a replacement for another family, okay? So like a scapegoat, yeah? So she's born for certain purposes. And now this boy now gets a name in my family, okay? And so because of that name, because of being called that name, he has to stand. Now, by standing with this woman, now he's doing his marriage. By standing with this woman, he's fighting altars for the family, for all the girls in the family, those who have been, who are, and those who are to come, okay? Those in the 5th generation. And I can tell you, my brother is so passionate about the girls that in the 5th generation, because by, okay, not because of that, yeah, but by covering this woman and standing still and strong and firm while she did all the crazy things you can think of, he's actually fighting for the next generation, the 5th generation of women in my family who could end up having similar lives to us, yeah. So us, we tasted, but we were able to escape for one reason or another, or some, endured the same, okay, but with also an escape, yeah. So there's an escape even for the children that come, through this, women that suffered the same things. And now the 5th generation will have escape once some, break some certain altars, okay? We will explore. Okay, so once he gives the woman this, then the woman responds, okay? Now your response, and that is why I mentioned that girl, your response as a woman is what determines your worth and the altars you're fighting for from your family. Can they be subdued, or are they even worse? What will they cause you to do? Okay, what will the altars in your family cause you to do? My altars used to make me run back home. Okay, it's how I've ever had this woman saying, if you ever leave a place where you grew and go to a place in search of greener pastures and you keep feeling like you should go back, watch out, because, and everybody who surrounds you should pray for you, because by going back, you lose your destiny, okay? You lose the very, blessing that got you out of that place. So being able to access another place, yeah, is an actual gift, but you can lose it because you give up, you get disappointed, you get, you lose your strength along the way, yeah? So stand if you can. Okay, so your response as a woman is what determines your worth, okay? So you're coming from altars that very likely were attracted to these altars in your man, but how you respond to his, leadership and his guidance is what determines your worth and the altars you're fighting. So when they're really terrible, that family can easily break, or even if it endures, there will be so many lessons to be learned. There'll be so many things that you guys will be fighting. You could even be not in the generations that, in the generation that breaks through, okay? So there could be things that your family came into agreement with that puts you in a place where you're still going through the most, yeah? So I'm saying, though this man is on the 4th generation in our family, in a way, we do not know where else, other people are situated, okay? And also we don't know this girl, what generation she is in the family that would push her to be in this position. What position is it? Refer to Hosea and the woman he married, okay? And that, was reflecting the state of Israel at that point. Can you be loved and respond with humility and respect, or do you choose to dominate? And what and how you do that is also through your altars, okay? What has challenged you so far will dictate how you react in marriage, yeah? What is your response when you're loved? What is your response when you're supported, okay? One time I was talking to this girl and I told her, the one thing you can't say about us is that we did not support you, okay? You knew you were loved, you knew you were cherished, you knew you were supported. Now, being in her shoes, she must have seen it a different way. Now, being in her eyes, yeah? Your eyes sometimes are blinded to what is being given to you freely sometimes, so that you will only realize in hindsight, I had it good, yeah? For me, that happened with my mom-in-law. I didn't see the sacrifices because she was particularly hard on me, yeah? Her criticism would get to my heart. And even though she would do that, later I would have these episodes where I just go home. I just go to the country to be with her, okay? And so I didn't feel like it was in her place to tell me what a good wife should be. I felt very attacked, yeah? But there were some particular things I used to enjoy. Like my mom-in-law is a storyteller, okay? So like me, I would enjoy her stories, yeah? So even though she was hard pressed, she was under so much pressure, she was living in a place where no woman should live, you know, after making all the sacrifices. But I guess she understood the process, she understood the journey. Her sacrifice, I will never ever be able to repay, okay? So I honor her now. Then I didn't. I would run away to be with her in these times and talk with her. I loved her comradeship, you know, and it is something that she bore when we first lived together, because as we were making our meals, she would be talking all the time, and I would wonder, wow, who is this woman who never gets tired of talking to her juniors, okay? And so she has always been surrounded by family, by people, by children. I don't even think I'm like that, you know. I've never seen that at home where, you know, like my mom wanted to be around so many people. She would get bothered. And so would I in the beginning, yeah? But I think as I come into this age, you know, like I've been looking forward to my grandkids for a long time, okay? But I'm always like putting conditions. I will not be raising them. You will, but they will be loved, okay? So, yeah, so refer to Genesis. Now, when it comes to like, can you be loved and respond with humility and respect to your husband, or do you now choose to dominate? Because sometimes when a person is loved, and a person is a woman, when you're loved, sometimes we get so dominating. Yeah, that is how we will look at a couple. Maybe at their joining, they look so beautiful together, and then later we see this man is so subdued. This girl has come into some weird power. She's so controlled. Yeah, now there's an English term for that I can't say in public, but it's something to do with being whipped. Yeah, so we say this man is whipped. So all of you know already what I'm talking about. So we say this man is whipped, yeah, but it's actually the spirits in this woman coming into play. She feels like unless she has control on things, she will lose, okay? So she feels like she needs to control the man. She needs to control everything that is done in this home. Things need to be set her own way. Now, while that is, you know, good and legal and allowed and supported, when you do it in a way that subdues everybody else, or you're so dominant in your position that this man now seems like he had nothing to bring to the table, like he had no leadership skills. It's you have to lead now. Yeah, you have to say, you lose this, you know, you lose the vision of what this man is supposed to do in this family, and he can even stay and just sit back and watch you do it. Yeah, this thing will break you. As a woman, you're not supposed to to carry the burden that is the man's. Yeah, at some point we have to understand that the man is also called for a very difficult task. And now I have seen my husband, like I told you before, just by existing, his children would respect him, would love him more. And I would be so jealous, like, why am I always talking? Why am I always guiding? Why am I the one who is making them this delicious foods, and they still don't respect me? It is because he's able to respect them in a way he understands a man needs to be respected. And for me, I have to learn that. If I can't decrease and learn what these children need, what these men need, I am useless to them, okay? They do not need me. And now as they are growing older, some beginning to date, they do not need me. They do not need that energy, especially when it is old and narcissistic and demonic. They do not need that. They will not have it. They will not accept it. So they veer towards this man that we call the good cop, or the parent that we'll call a good cop. Sometimes it's the woman who is the good cop, and the man is just out of, he's just very toxic in the family, okay? So both. Okay, so this, I need you to refer to Genesis 3:16 and 24. This is a curse from the Bible. When Adam and Eve, went against what God said, and they sinned, okay? And God came and told Eve, you shall give birth through pain and all that. I want you to really refer. But and you know this man will be in control of you, okay? Is and in some versions it depicts a picture where each 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 person is trying to control the other in a marriage, okay? And you know, I love this example. I know it is used all the time, but when a body has two heads, it's actually a monster, okay? So if the couple is fighting to dominate the other, it becomes a mess, okay? Both should submit to God. Let the man lead and submit to his leadership, yeah? But both should bow to only God, okay? Refer to Ephesians 5 when it talks about submit to one another, and then it goes ahead to say, woman, submit to your husband, and husband, love you know, the woman, okay? And now in Peter, he talks to us about how he talks to the men about, you know, living with understanding with your women, because they're the weaker vessels, yeah? As much as we appear strong sometimes, without the love and comfort and softness and, you know, that being accommodated by a man, those who have a marriage that they fight for and know their worth, and they are like, this has to stand. So I will have to partner with God so that he makes this stand, not the man, yeah? With the man, you submit, you join with, you know, you have all these wonderful moments, but these are actually a gift from God, yeah? So when you partner with God, he ushers you into all these beautiful things that can be found in the marriage, okay? So has that been helpful? I have to tell you, full disclosure, when I started this, I was going to give you another example of, you know, the two marriages in the family and what informed, you know, us going in our different ways, my sister and I, so that she ended looking like she's living my mom's life because of the decisions that she made. That could have been formed all the time. Maybe she was chosen to do that, yeah, because she could handle that, okay? And I was chosen to do this so that I can, you know, have these marriages established. Now, the cousin who was married before me by Ameru, we have the same kind of nature. We have the same kind of personality, yeah? So she's more active. She's a better mom, you know, in terms of cleaning and raising children, you know. But, you know, in some ways, you know, it's like I compliment her, you know, as a person who comes later, it's like I compliment her in a way, yeah? And I see this happens because I was coming to finish the battle that she started. So had she not started, it would have been more difficult for me, okay? And now my sister does this journey where it's like she's doing what my mom did, you know? And now we have another cousin who is very similar to my sister, okay? They are the go-getters. They are single women who are fiery, you know? They're able to, you know, raise very great children by her own. These women are not to be played with. I honor them. I respect them. They've done so much that I know I couldn't, you know. And so whether you're married or not, you know, there's a thing you're doing that the next person will not be able to do because they've not been called for that, okay? At the time of your calling or being chosen for a particular thing, it will not look like you're called for that, okay? So you'll be hidden in plain sight. Nobody, if you ask my family, nobody would have thought I could make a good wife, you know, in any way, okay? So we tell it because there's a girl struggling with her image right now. You've been chosen, you've been called to be a wife, and that is a prestigious position, not because it's a marriage where you have a man in a world where people want men. No, it's because God is, you know, is choosing you so that when you come together with this man, your marriage will be a ministry, an example. You will look back and think, perhaps I didn't do, or I wasn't so successful in so many things, but wherever we stepped, we were an example. Whenever people looked at us, they were like, yeah, we see something here. Oh, well, these people are doing so well. I admire them, okay? So these are things we had, you know, along the way as we were growing. We didn't think they mattered, but now we understand what people were seeing, because people will see a light in you that you don't see it in yourself. You don't see in yourself, okay? So hang in there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.